So today, I wanted to go live to talk about a topic that I feel is so important for long-term true relief from stress, anxiety, depression, all those patterns that we have, those blocks to our happiness. And this is actually so important to me. I'm writing a book about it. It's called It's Not About the Trigger, It's About the Trauma. And really, when the light bulb went off for me around this concept about it not being about the trigger, it's really about the trauma underneath the trigger, is when I was 27. And I just started meditating, and I was going through this phase in life where my mind was getting really open. And for a long time in my life, I had an issue with jealousy, right? From age 15 on with women in all my relationships. So I'm in this mind opening phase in life. I'm 27. So I seek out this spiritual healer, right? So I drive out to him in Sedona, Arizona. And within minutes of talking to him, this memory bubbles up, this cellular memory bubbled up from when I was 5 years old, right? And I'm in this memory, watching my parents argue. And I look down and I'm on the floor, right? I could feel the carpet that was in the house at that time. And in the memory, I'm looking around and I see the old couches. Literally, this memory was deep down inside of me, right? It was called a cellular memory. That's what the teacher told me at that time. That's what it was. So he helped bubble it up to the conscious level so I can experience it. And this happened moments after I told him I wanted to work on my jealousy, right? So right there, I was like, wow, I was reflecting on all the relationships, all the episodes of jealousy, and it just all boiled down to this one core traumatic experience, right? And as we were going through that healing session, the layers of anger started to unlock and release from my body while we were holding that memory in mind. Underneath the anger were layers of sadness, right? And underneath that was a core layer of the fear of abandonment, right? So that was so mind-opening and such a breakthrough for me, where jealousy never ended another one of my relationships after that point. And now if I start to feel it, it's just like a little tingle and I embrace it. And it's like a chance for me to embrace myself with self-love, right? With the breath work that I teach and the techniques, the different techniques to reconnect inside of our body with ourselves. So that was such a big life-changing event for me that changed my behavior, right? I felt like it put me on a different track in life, because it was one of those issues. I had a ton of issues, right? Growing up in high school, college, that was one of them. But then I found something that worked and I just started working on the different issues, right? It's almost, I have addicted personality, if any of you know me personally from growing up, right? But I got addicted to this like holistic healing stuff. And it was an awesome addiction, because at the end of the day, it always left me reconnecting with myself in a deeper place of self-love and actually feeling that open up in my body, in my mind, my cells, right? And that made it easier for me to experience more joy and happiness in life, okay? So I wanted to break down a little bit about how trauma works and connect the dots a little bit more, right? So we're young in our formative years, right? They call them formative years because our experiences form core beliefs, right? In the center of our being, which hold logic. And when we have a core belief, that actually creates a neural net in our brain, a pathway, right? An electric pathway where repetitive negative thoughts flow through, and it creates patterns, okay? And when our stress reaction, right, the thing that's kept us alive throughout evolution, especially through our caveman days, right? When that gets a hold of those old experiences that were traumatic for us, that had a lot of emotional weight and fear in it. Well, our brain's like a supercomputer, and our stress doesn't want us to experience that again. So it comes up with a laundry list of triggers, right? That if we see, hear, smell, touch something similar to that original traumatic event, it's going to trigger our stress reaction, and we're going to fight or flight. We're going to run or fight to stay alive. That whole stress reaction is going to trigger to keep us safe, right? But what happens, because we're not living in the woods anymore, right? Because we live under the roof with our nuclear family as we're growing up in the childhood home we grew up in, and now many of us have our own families. What happens is the traumas that we experience as a child form core beliefs, form those neural nets, which then form a list of triggers, okay, and form another list of overreactions, right? The things we say, how we feel, the things we do in those reactions, right? And again, the word reaction, we're just reacting the past. It's not an authentic response, right? It's not the authentic you. It's a programmed reaction. So we're kind of like trying to break through the program, right, from the inside out, kind of like cracking the eggshell from the inside out to break through to the other side. And what's on the other side? The real you, the authentic you, the you in the moment, right? The real you. The you that's connected to that divine inner wisdom to handle a stressful situation. But your body's got to remain calm and your mind's got to be clear to receive that. So, went off on a little tangent there. But so really, the most important thing I feel about understanding this concept is that the most repetitive stress in your life, right? Let's say it's with your spouse, or with your kids, or with a boss, right? Whatever it is, the most repetitive stress in your life is coming from a core belief that stems from a trauma. Now, the technique that I do uses the details of your routine stress, right? That repeats day in and day out, right? That anxiety. It uses the emotion and the thought. We use those two things and the location of tension in your body when you have that stress reaction to go down the rabbit hole and discover that original traumatic memory that's at the roots, at the source of the stress and the anxiety, the depression. And once we get to the root, that's the amazing part. That's where the miracles happen. Once that stress is on the table, right? And that it's conscious, we're able to look at what the memory is. That's when we call upon energy, divine energy, right? I know it sounds funny, but divine energy to unlock and release it from your cells. And what I found was the right amount of light always comes through based on how much emotional heaviness is there. So the bigger the trauma, the more light that comes through to wash through you, to unlock and release the layers of overwhelm, anger, shame, fear, anxiety, whatever it is. It just unlocks and releases it layer by layer by layer until it's all cleared. And the cool thing is, it's like if you build up a house of cards, right? The top layer gets a little bit wider. But if you take out that one card from the middle, what happens? All the cards just fall flat, right? Or thinking about dominoes, right? You have dominoes, a set of dominoes, you have them up, you knock over one, and then they all just, right? That's what happens when you get to the core traumatic memory and you unlock and release all the built up emotions that are imprinted on that memory. When you unlock them and release them, okay, that repatterns the emotional memory, that repatterns that original traumatic memory. The awesome thing when that happens is that the core belief that was formed from the original trauma disappears because it has no more emotional fuel keeping it alive. So a lot of times when I work with kids or teenagers and we're working on anger, they say it feels like they just popped the balloon that was inside of them. They had this whole like balloon of anger inside of them. They just popped it. People describe the feeling many, many different ways. And to be honest, every session is different. But I could say for the most part, it is like a balloon pop, or it's like a slow release of a balloon when the air is just deflating. And that's when we're like letting go slowly of the layers upon layers and layers. And that's one of the things that I love most about my work, is that I get to witness people go through that day in and day out. And then they get to walk away with the new sense of themselves. And once all the trauma, the heaviness, the emotions start to unlock and release, what we're breathing into the space is your own divine nature, your own authentic you. Okay. And that's what helps us navigate stressful situations in the present day and in the future. So without all those like older, heavier emotions, old traumatic memories kind of haunting us in the back of the closet, if you will, it's like our baggage, right? And you don't know how much baggage you've been holding until you let it go. So that's another thing that a lot of people say. They say, you know, I had this feeling in between my shoulder blades or my chest or my throat, and I didn't know I had it there. Some people say they had it there their whole life. But then when it's open, now you're more free to express yourself and feel safe in doing so. And yeah, so I just wanted to share that whole concept about it. It's not about the trigger. So it's not about your spouse. It's about the trauma, right? So if you're arguing with your husband, right, repeatedly about the same things, and you're saying the same things, he's saying the same things, there might be work for you to do on your relationship with your father from when you were a young girl, and for your husband to do on his relationship with his mother when he was a young boy. So it's all about getting to the root, healing the issues that we faced in our formative years, letting go of certain things. And this is the quickest way that I, learned how to do it. But I wanted to share this concept because to me, it's the truth. It's not about the trigger, it's about the trauma. Because when you let go of the trauma and all those emotions leave, the trigger doesn't hit you anymore. It becomes completely unempowered. So it doesn't hit on anything in your body. So your boss could walk into your office and say the same thing, but you're not triggered with stress. You're just calm, cool, and collected, right? It doesn't affect you. You're hearing it, but it's not hitting on your traumas. So it's not stressing you out. You could respond authentically, right? And the same thing with dealing with your spouse or your kids. So I think ultimately with the amount of stress we have, in the world today, the more we could be our authentic nature, our authentic self, the more that's going to bring peace to our world, the more that's going to bring peace in our families, in our community, and most importantly, within ourselves, right? It all starts with the man in the mirror, right? So, yeah, it's a good song. Anyway, that we do that very quick in the coaching sessions, and at the Omega Retreat, we're going to do that for a week straight, right? We have 2 sessions a day. Both sessions are about 2.5 hours. We're going to be doing multiple hours a day of group release work, laser coaching sessions, and then guided meditation. So it's going to be a life-changing event. There's also going to be some music and movement involved, and it's going to be awesome. We might have some yoga involved as well. So thanks for watching. God bless, and wishing everybody a great day. If you have any questions, please email me at brett@stressisgone.org, and go to brettcotter.com, download the free mini course. It's a life changer, and join the group, Release Stress Now with Brett Cotter. All right. God bless. Have a great day, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now.